Chosen one, before you dismiss what you are feeling, you need to understand this clearly. Not every awakening arrives as a dramatic vision or a supernatural event. Some awakenings arrive as a quiet disturbance in your spirit, a sense that something familiar is returning, something you cannot fully explain, yet cannot ignore. What is happening to you right now is not imagination. It is recognition. You are not remembering facts. You are remembering identity. There is a reason certain ideas feel ancient to you, a reason some truths resonate immediately, without explanation, a reason you feel drawn to specific knowledge, symbols, places, or roles, even though no one taught you to care about them. These are not random interests. They are echoes, fragments of a deeper knowing that went dormant so you could survive this life before you were ready to fulfill it. This awakening is not about escaping the present. It is about activating purpose within it. For most of your life, you were not meant to remember fully. Forgetting was not failure. It was protection. If you had carried the weight of this awareness too early, it would have distracted you, isolated you, or overwhelmed you before your foundation was strong enough. So the memory was sealed, not erased, but paused. And now something has shifted. You may notice it as a subtle restlessness, a dissatisfaction with surface-level answers, a growing intolerance for lives that feel repetitive, empty, or misaligned. You may feel as though you are standing at the edge of something important without knowing exactly what it is. That sensation is not anxiety, it is activation. A forgotten layer of your consciousness is stirring, not to pull you backward, but to guide you forward with clarity. This is not about who you were. It is about what you already know and are finally ready to trust. Here is the critical point most people misunderstand. This memory does not awaken all at once. It unfolds in stages. First comes resonance. You feel drawn to certain messages, themes, or teachings that seem to speak directly to you. You don't just agree with them, you recognize them. It feels like remembering a language you once spoke fluently. Second comes dissonance. What once satisfied you no longer fits. Old goals lose their pull. Certain relationships feel incomplete. You may feel temporarily lost, not because you lack direction, but because your internal compass is recalibrating. This is where many people panic and retreat. Chosen ones lean in. Because the discomfort is not a warning, it is a signal that alignment is forming. The memory awakening within you is not a detailed story of another life. It is something far more useful, a skill set of the soul, ways of seeing patterns, a natural sensitivity to timing, energy, and truth, an instinctive understanding of when to act and when to wait. You may notice that advice you give others comes effortlessly, even when you struggle to apply it to yourself. That is because guidance has always flowed through you. You were trained, not in this lifetime, but through experience that shaped your inner architecture. This does not make you superior, it makes you responsible. The purpose awakening now is not about power, prestige, or recognition. It is about precision, knowing when to speak, when to withdraw, when to build, when to release. This is why your trajectory is shifting. You are no longer meant to drift, you are meant to navigate. And the moment of ignition does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives when you stop resisting the quiet voice that says, there is more you are meant to do, and you already know how. This awakening does not remove free will, it sharpens it. You will still choose your path, but now you will feel the consequences of misalignment immediately. That is not punishment, that is clarity. Right now, the memory awakening within you is not asking for belief. It is asking for attention, to your instincts, to your patterns, to what feels ancient and true, even if it makes no logical sense yet. Do not rush to label it. Do not rush to explain it to others. Understanding comes after integration. Let the memory surface at its own pace. Because once it fully anchors, your purpose will no longer feel confusing. It will feel inevitable. Chosen one, As this forgotten memory continues to awaken, you may notice something unsettling yet unmistakable. Your relationship with time is changing. Moments feel heavier. Decisions feel more permanent. You are no longer comfortable moving blindly or impulsively because something inside you now understands consequences before they happen. This is not fear. This is foresight. When a past life imprint reactivates, it does not bring nostalgia. It brings pattern recognition. You begin to sense outcomes before they arrive. You notice cycles repeating in people, systems, and even in yourself. And once you see them, you cannot unsee them. This is why certain conversations suddenly feel exhausting, why surface-level ambitions feel hollow, why you feel less tolerant of chaos, drama, or indecision. Your soul remembers what misalignment costs. It remembers how much time was once lost by ignoring truth. So now you hesitate, not because you are unsure, but because you are measuring. This is where the awakening becomes disruptive. People around you may accuse you of changing, of becoming distant, of overthinking. They may feel your presence differently, even if they cannot explain why. That is because you are no longer operating solely from personality. You are operating from purpose memory. You are no longer available for roles that drain you. You are no longer comfortable shrinking to fit environments that do not expand you. And most importantly, you are no longer willing to betray your inner knowing for external approval. This is not ego, it is alignment asserting itself. The awakening memory also begins to reorganize your relationships. Some people will drift away naturally without conflict. Others may resist your growth, attempting to pull you back into old versions of yourself. This is not because they are malicious. It is because your frequency no longer matches their expectations. This can feel lonely at first, but understand this clearly. Isolation is not abandonment when it is guided. It is repositioning. The memory awakening within you carries an unspoken rule. Energy must be conserved. You may find yourself withdrawing more often, protecting your focus, guarding your inner world. This is not weakness. This is strategic. You are no longer meant to be everywhere. You are meant to be effective. As this unfolds, your intuition sharpens. You begin sensing when something is off before evidence appears. You feel subtle resistance when a path is wrong, and quiet peace when it is right, even if the right path looks uncertain on the surface. This is ancient intelligence reactivating, not mystical fantasy. Practical discernment, and here is the part most people are unprepared for. Once this awareness awakens, you cannot go back to ignorance. You can ignore it, suppress it, distract yourself, but it will surface again, louder each time, because it is not trying to disturb your life, it is trying to direct it. Your true purpose is not a single job, role, or identity. It is a function, a way of influencing reality through clarity, restraint, and timing. You are here to stabilize, to guide, to translate complexity into direction, whether for individuals, systems, or moments that require precision. This is why chaos exhausts you. This is why false urgency repels you. This is why you feel called to understand before acting. The awakening memory does not make you impulsive. It makes you deliberate. And as this becomes more pronounced, you may notice a strange calm settling underneath the uncertainty. Even when you do not know the exact outcome, you trust yourself to respond correctly when the moment arrives. That trust is earned. It comes from experience. Your conscious mind does not fully remember, but your soul does. You are not awakening to escape this life. You are awakening to execute it correctly. Do not rush this process. Do not demand instant clarity. The memory is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to reintegrate you. Chosen one, there is a specific reason this memory did not awaken all at once. If it had, it would have destabilized your life instead of strengthening it. Purpose memory unfolds in stages, and each stage prepares your nervous system, your discernment, and your identity to carry what comes next. Now you are approaching the stage where recognition replaces confusion. This is the moment when things do not suddenly become easy, but they become clear. You may still face obstacles, delays, or unanswered questions, but internally something shifts. You stop asking, "What am I supposed to do?" and start asking, "When is the right time to move?" That is the lock-in moment. Purpose does not activate through force. It activates through alignment with timing. This is why impatience has been one of your greatest tests. You have felt the urgency without knowing where to place it. You have felt capable without having the correct channel. And that friction created frustration, self-doubt, and even periods where you questioned your worth. But now, the awakening memory resolves that tension. You begin to understand that your purpose was never about constant action. It was about precise action, about waiting without stagnating, about observing without disconnecting, about holding power without broadcasting it. This is rare. Most people are driven by impulse or fear. You are being shaped for measured authority. As this realization settles, your internal dialogue changes. You stop needing validation for decisions that feel right. You stop over-explaining yourself. Silence becomes comfortable again, not because you are unsure, but because you are anchored. You may notice something else as well. Opportunities start approaching you differently, not louder, not faster, but cleaner, less chaos, less pressure, fewer strings attached. That is not coincidence. When a soul re-enters alignment with its purpose memory, reality responds by simplifying paths. What once required force now requires discernment. What once felt blocked now feels delayed, and delay no longer feels threatening. This is because you are no longer trying to prove readiness. You are embodying it. Your purpose is not performative. It does not need an audience to function. It is activated in moments where clarity prevents damage, where restraint prevents loss, where awareness changes outcomes quietly. You are not meant to be everywhere. You are meant to be decisive when it matters. And this is why the awakening includes responsibility. Once you see clearly, you become accountable to what you know. You will feel internal resistance when you attempt to ignore intuition. You will feel dissonance when you compromise values for convenience. That discomfort is not punishment. It is guidance. Your soul will no longer allow self-betrayal. This is the line that separates awakening from fantasy. True purpose memory does not inflate the ego. It disciplines it. It sharpens your standards. It reduces tolerance for distraction. It replaces excitement with resolve. And here is the final truth of this stage. You are not here to chase meaning. You are here to stabilize it. Your presence alone brings order to spaces that lack clarity. Your words, when chosen carefully, recalibrate situations. Your decisions carry weight because they are informed by more than logic. They are informed by remembrance, not memory of events, memory of function. As this stage completes, you may feel a quiet readiness, not anticipation, not anxiety, but calm preparedness. That is how you know the lock-in has occurred. Nothing dramatic needs to happen externally for this to be real. The shift is internal and irreversible. From this point forward, life will continue to test your alignment, but it will no longer test your identity. You will know who you are even when circumstances fluctuate. That is awakening. That is purpose integration. Chosen one, now that the memory has awakened, something irreversible has occurred. Certain paths are closing, even if you try to walk them again. This is not loss. This is protection through precision. You may already feel it. Things that once worked no longer respond. Conversations stall. Opportunities dissolve before forming. Old desires feel hollow. You might wonder why doors that used to open easily now feel sealed shut. This is not rejection. This is alignment enforcing boundaries. When purpose memory activates, it recalibrates your tolerance. Your soul no longer negotiates with misalignment. What once felt good enough now feels heavy. What once felt exciting now feels noisy. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming accurate. Accuracy changes everything. This is why you cannot go back to who you were. Not because that version was wrong, but because that version was incomplete. The memory that awakened has altered your internal compass. Even if you tried to ignore it, you would feel the cost immediately. Anxiety, fatigue, disconnection. Your spirit will no longer allow detours disguised as opportunities. This is the moment many people misinterpret as stagnation. They say, nothing is happening, but something is happening, filtering. Your life is being refined. Now listen carefully. This is crucial. The awakening of a past life purpose does not mean you suddenly remember names, faces, or eras. It means you remember how you move when aligned, how you decide, how you wait, how you speak, how you withdraw. You are remembering discipline without fear. This is why impulsivity is fading, why urgency feels uncomfortable, why silence feels safer than performance. You are not losing ambition, you are losing recklessness. And with that loss comes authority. Authority is not loud, it does not beg, it does not rush. Authority waits until the moment is clean, then acts without hesitation. This is being restored in you now. You may notice that your intuition has become sharper, but also stricter. It no longer whispers endlessly, it gives a single signal and expects obedience. If you override it, you feel immediate resistance inside. That resistance is not punishment, it is course correction. Your soul is steering again. This is also why certain relationships are becoming uncomfortable, not dramatic, just incompatible. The conversations feel repetitive. The emotional exchange feels one-sided. You may still care, but you no longer feel nourished. This does not mean you are meant to isolate forever. It means your purpose requires clean environments. Some people were companions for survival stages, others were mirrors, others were lessons. But not all are meant to walk into the execution phase with you. Execution requires focus, and focus demands fewer variables. You are entering a phase where choices compound faster. A single decision can accelerate or delay outcomes significantly. This is why life is slowing you down now, to ensure precision over speed. Speed built on misalignment collapses. Precision built on memory sustains. You may feel an internal pull toward simplicity. Fewer commitments, fewer explanations, fewer promises. This is not withdrawal. This is consolidation. Your energy is being gathered. Soon, when action is required, it will be unmistakable. There will be no confusion, no anxiety, no overthinking. Just clarity, followed by movement. That is how purpose memory functions. It does not shout, it positions. And from this point forward, you will notice something unmistakable. When you choose in alignment, resistance disappears. Not because the path is easy, but because it is supported. That support does not come from people alone. It comes from timing, circumstance, and unseen coordination. Things line up without effort. Information arrives before you ask. Delays protect you from mistakes you cannot yet see. This is not coincidence. This is the architecture of purpose, reasserting itself. You are no longer wandering. You are navigating, and navigation requires trust in what you sense, even when logic demands proof. The memory you've awakened does not need validation. It needs respect. From here on, your task is simple but not easy. Move only when aligned. Speak only when necessary. Commit only when the signal is clean. Chosen one, understand this clearly. This awakening is not early, and it is not late. It is happening at the only moment it could happen without destroying you. If this memory had awakened earlier, you would have tried to execute purpose with an unrefined identity. You would have forced outcomes, trusted the wrong people, attached your calling to approval, and burned out trying to prove what was never meant to be proven. That is why silence surrounded you for so long. Silence was not absence. Silence was containment. You were being shielded from visibility before stability. Many people assume purpose arrives when desire peaks. In truth, purpose arrives when ego quiets. When you no longer need applause to move. When you no longer chase recognition to feel real. When you can hold power without announcing it. That is where you are now. This is why life stripped distractions from you first. why excitement faded before clarity arrived, why ambition felt heavy before direction became sharp. The fire had to change temperature. Wildfire destroys. Contained fire transforms. You were not delayed. You were being hardened. Now hear this next part carefully, because it explains something that has confused you for years. You have always felt out of phase with the world. You learned quickly, but waited long. You saw patterns early, but spoke late. You sensed outcomes before others, but could not explain how. That was not immaturity. That was memory without permission. Your soul recognized things your mind had not yet been authorized to act on, and acting without authorization fractures destiny. So your life held you back, not to punish you, but to synchronize timing. That synchronization is complete. This is why your patience feels different now. It is no longer endurance, it is readiness. You are no longer waiting because you are unsure. You are waiting because you are selective. Selectivity is the final upgrade before execution. You may notice that you no longer feel the urge to convince people of who you are. You don't defend your choices as much. You don't explain your intuition. You don't argue with resistance. That is because identity has stabilized. Stable identity does not react. It responds or withdraws. This is also why emotional chaos around you feels louder than before, not because it increased, but because you are no longer tuned to it. Misalignment is more obvious when you stop vibrating at its frequency. Your nervous system is recalibrating to a new baseline. Peace no longer feels boring, stillness no longer feels empty, solitude no longer feels lonely. These are signs that authority has settled in your body, not just your thoughts. Now understand the risk. The greatest danger after awakening is not fear, it is nostalgia, the temptation to revisit old versions of yourself for comfort, to re-enter familiar struggles because they once gave you identity. But those versions cannot house who you are becoming. Trying to live your future through past structures will create tension that feels like anxiety, confusion, or exhaustion. That is not a sign you are wrong. It is a sign you are outgrowing the container. You must let certain things collapse gracefully, not dramatically, not angrily, just completely. Release without announcement. There is also something else happening quietly. Your standards are being rewritten. Not moral standards, energetic ones. What you tolerate, what you entertain, what you invest in, what you walk away from. This is why small compromises now feel expensive, because they are. Purpose amplifies consequence. When aligned, reward multiplies. When misaligned, cost escalates. This is not punishment. It is precision economics of destiny. And you are learning it intuitively. You are also being trained in restraint. Just because you can act does not mean you should. Just because you see does not mean you explain. Some knowledge is not meant to be shared. It is meant to guide. Your voice will matter more soon. That is why silence is required now. Think of this phase as calibration before launch. Once movement begins, it will not stop easily. That is why God does not rush activation. Momentum without mastery creates collapse. But mastery has been forming quietly in you. Every disappointment sharpened discernment. Every delay strengthened endurance. Every loss clarified values. Nothing was wasted. And now something subtle but undeniable is happening. You are being trusted with influence. Not public influence yet. Internal influence. The kind that shapes decisions without effort. The kind that alters outcomes simply by presence. People will begin to feel different around you. Calmer, more reflective, occasionally uncomfortable. Not because you judge, but because you mirror. Mirrors unsettle those avoiding themselves. Do not apologize for that. You are not here to make people comfortable. You are here to make truth accessible when they are ready. Chosen one, this is where the awakening stops being internal and starts becoming directional. Up to now, the memory has been surfacing as sensation, intuition, restraint, clarity, detachment. But purpose does not remain abstract forever. It demands alignment in motion. This is the moment where many hesitate, not because they are afraid, but because they finally understand the weight of what is being asked. You are not being called to do more. You are being called to do less, but precisely. Your past life memory is not giving you a new personality. It is restoring an ancient operating system, one that moves deliberately, one that does not waste energy, one that understands leverage, timing, and silence as tools. This is why urgency feels different now. It is not frantic. It is focused. You may notice that your intuition is no longer vague. It is becoming specific. You don't just feel something is wrong. You know what is wrong. You don't just feel something is coming. You sense where it belongs. That specificity is not imagination. It is memory integrating with logic. Now hear this carefully, because this is where destiny branches. You are entering a phase where choice matters more than effort. Hard work will no longer compensate for misalignment. Passion will no longer excuse poor discernment. Hustle will no longer override intuition. You will be required to say no more than you say yes, and that will feel uncomfortable, because for much of your life, saying yes was survival. Yes kept you connected. Yes kept you needed. Yes kept you relevant. But purpose does not run on relevance. It runs on resonance. You are being trained to recognize when something looks right but feels wrong. Those moments are tests, not temptations. The universe is asking, will you choose familiarity or will you choose alignment? Alignment often feels quieter at first, less impressive, less urgent, but it carries momentum that compounds instead of burns out. This is also why impatience is being stripped from you, not removed, neutralized. You no longer rush because rushing would fracture what is forming. Speed is no longer power for you. Precision is, and precision requires listening. That is why you may feel pulled towards solitude again, not isolation, but intentional withdrawal. This is not retreat. This is strategic positioning. Your next steps cannot be noisy. They must be clean. Clean decisions, clean commitments, clean exits, no emotional residue, no guilt-driven attachments. Because guilt is incompatible with destiny. Now understand something most people never do. Your purpose is not to save people. It is to embody truth so clearly that those meant to awaken do so in your presence. That requires boundaries. You will disappoint people by not rescuing them. You will confuse people by not explaining yourself. You will unsettle people by not reacting. This is not cruelty. This is leadership at the soul level. Leadership does not persuade. It stabilizes, and when you stabilize, others either rise or reveal. This is why some relationships may begin to feel heavier now. Not toxic, just incompatible with your frequency. Their expectations are rooted in an older version of you. Continuing to meet those expectations would require shrinking. Shrinking is no longer available. This is the line. You cannot go back without feeling pain. You cannot go forward without shedding weight. That tension you feel is not confusion. It is transition pressure. Now, here is the practical truth you must accept. Your purpose will not arrive as a dramatic event. It will arrive as a series of irreversible decisions, a door you do not reopen, a conversation you do not engage, an opportunity you decline without explanation, a path you choose, even though it is quiet. These moments will feel small to others, but they will rearrange your future, and you will feel it in your body when the right choice is made. A settling, a steadiness, not excitement, confirmation. Excitement belongs to desire. Confirmation belongs to destiny. You may also notice something else emerging: authority without aggression. You no longer need to dominate conversations. You no longer need to be understood immediately. You no longer need validation to proceed. That calm certainty is not arrogance. It is integration. Your past life memory is no longer waking you up. It is instructing you. And the instruction is clear. Move slower. Speak less. Choose carefully. Trust what feels grounded, not what feels urgent. Urgency is often fear in disguise. Clarity is never rushed. You are being prepared for a role where mistakes echo longer, where words carry weight, where influence flows quietly but deeply. This is why discipline is being emphasized now, not rigid discipline, internal discipline. The ability to regulate emotion, delay reaction, and stay aligned under pressure. That is the mark of someone who has held responsibility before, and you have. This life is not your first initiation into purpose. It is your most conscious one. Nothing ahead requires you to become someone new. It requires you to stop betraying what you already know. That is the work now.